To meet today is the leader of the federal opposition in Canada, the Honourable Thomas Mulcair. He's also the leader of the new Democratic Party of Canada. Mr. Mulcair, let me welcome you to our show to share views and ideas on political issues with our audience.
Thank you very much, Robert.
Maybe the first question is the fact that how many candidates are you going to put up in this new 338 ridings this year?
Well, we'll run 338 candidates, of course. We'll have one person in every riding. And most of those nominations are still going on, and they're starting to ramp up quickly over the coming weeks.
That's really good to hear. That's always one of the questions more challenging by our audience. And the other one, of course, is that do you know of, or would there be too many, or many, not too many, candidates with a Chinese heritage running for the NDP?
Well, you're completely right. There are never too many, but we do have several very high quality people with Chinese heritage who are running for us in several of those ridings, and I'm expecting there to be several Chinese candidates in the next election.
Certainly won't be Miss Chow, Olivia?
You never know.
I know. I got that answer in my head already. Never say never. But anyways, going on to the next question. Family reunion through immigration is important to Chinese
Yes.
Canadians.
Yes.
The overall immigration target has been pretty steady for the last decade to be about 250,000, and many of them are family reunion candidates. Do you see a need to increase or decrease immigration figures?
There's no question in our mind that the door has been closed largely to family reunification, and when you look at the struggles here in the Toronto area, for example, most families can't count on a single full-time job. Mom and dad are working 2-3 jobs, and you know what? Sometimes the best social program is a united family. So if you can bring the generations together, often the older generation could help with the kids while the parents are out working. This is a good thing, and we think that we should reopen the door again. Mr. Harper's Conservatives believe that this is too onerous. It's a burden on our healthcare system, for example. We don't agree with that. We want to make sure that families feel welcome, that they're allowed to reunite. My wife, Catherine, is an immigrant to Canada, and I want to keep the door open to family reunification because I understand firsthand how important that is.
Okay. The other thing we need to know a little bit is the fact that, of course, the federal election is scheduled for October the 19th.
Yes.
But it could be sooner, and certainly not later. Given that traditionally a majority of the Chinese community is affiliated with the Conservative and the Liberal parties, what has the NDP done to convince our Chinese community to vote for the party, and are there any particular issues that will motivate them to come out and vote for the NDP?
Well, our position on small business, I would say, is probably something that would be very attractive to members of the Chinese community, many of whom own small and medium-sized businesses. We would propose a substantial drop in the tax rate from 11 down to 9%. That might give the opportunity to create more new jobs, maybe take a part-time existing job, make it into a full-time job. You know, 80% of new jobs in Canada are created by small and medium-sized businesses. Mr. Harper and Mr. Trudeau give $50 billion tax break to the biggest corporations who don't need it. We would try to concentrate what we had in the way of money for the taxes to the small and medium-sized businesses who are the job creators. That's the type of policy we think that would resonate very well. And also we have a more open immigration policy, including on family reunification, which is something we hear a lot about. There are silly things being done now, asking a 65-year-old to take a language test, things like that. Yes. We think that the community is very upset about that, and they have a right to be.
Okay. Now, to form the next federal government in Canada, the NDP not only has to hold all its existing seats, but also have to gain and expand in other provinces outside of Quebec and BC. Is Ontario a major target for the 15 new additional ridings?
Yeah, there's no question that Ontario, with around 120 seats, is a massive player in the next campaign. More than 1/3 of the seats in all of Canada are here in Ontario. Even the GTA has more seats than all 4 Atlantic provinces, for example. So yeah, it's huge. And the diversity of the communities here means that you have to have an ear. You have to have a tuning fork for every community to know the media, to know the community's main issues, and keep attending events. I've got a wonderful gentleman named Tim Chu who works with us and identifies for me where we should be visiting and meeting with people, and we do that constantly. Catherine and I here in the Greater Toronto area, we attended 2 major balls for Chinese New Year this year, for example, and we got to meet hundreds and hundreds of people at every one of those events.
Having us to do the interview is a very good move.
It's going to turn out to be a very good move because it gives me an opportunity to meet you, Robert.
Oh, I don't know. Anyways, the other thing is that many were saying that the NDP voter base has been steadily eroded by the Liberals. The Liberals are shifting to the left of the political spectrum slowly, and that used to be an exclusive area for the NDP. Do you agree with this statement, and can you now remind us of the fundamental differences between the 2 parties these days? Because many people were confused.
Well, I'll give you a very contemporary example. I think that is a test of whether or not you're a progressive, left-leaning. Bill C-51, which will compromise everybody's rights and freedoms, which is being brought in by Mr. Harper. I'm opposed to it. I'm standing up to it, and my whole caucus is going to vote against it. Mr. Trudeau pretends that he's against it, but he's going to vote for it. So people can see that sort of contradiction. But whether it's on the environment, Keystone XL exports 40,000 jobs to the U.S. Mr. Trudeau's in favor of it. We're against it. It's not a sustainable project. We would keep those jobs in Canada. With regard to the economy, he's in favor of a $50 billion tax break for the largest and richest corporations. We're against that. And on the environment, he doesn't even believe that the federal government has a role to play in dealing with climate change. He's going to leave that to the provinces. We disagree with that.
I saw your argument on Bill 51, and I'm somewhat convinced by it. At least you want the government to look before it leaps, before it infringes on people's privacy and all that. And you have your point there. I saw that clip, and I'm impressed.
Thank you.
Now, of course, I have a couple more questions. One of them is that maybe there's a need to have you tell our audience the difference between yourself and Liberal leader Justin Trudeau. Even though I know, because I study, many feel that Justin was very aggressive, and he simply opposed to almost all of the policies for the sake of publicity. You, on the other hand, seems to be more selective with your criticism, and you kept an open mind. So are you really that open and willing to accept good policies when you see one?
I think that one of the roles of a good opposition party is constructive criticism. Sometimes we'll dig in our heels and be firmly opposed, as in the case of C-51. Sometimes it will be much more nuanced, and I think that the people appreciate that when they see that you're capable of looking at both sides. But when we do come down four square against something, people know that it's because we sincerely oppose.
One last question then. Leadership is another big issue for voters.
Yes.
You are constantly behind in the polls. Of course, we don't believe in, the only poll is the one on voting day, in a popularity contest of federal political leaders. What do you need to change to overcome this perceived disadvantage to get more votes for yourself and the party?
There's a big difference between voting for someone and saying that you know them. We do have a bit of a challenge in the sense that across Canada, I don't have a family name that's as well known as Mr. Trudeau's, and there's a bit of name recognition there. And of course, the Prime Minister garners a lot of important coverage just by being Prime Minister. But we know, Robert, that this time around Canadians want change. And the only way that they're going to get the change that they want is to vote NDP, because the Liberals and the Conservatives, whether it's environment, whether it's economy, whether it's security, whether it's social issues, they're one and the same. It's like changing a Coke for a Pepsi. We're the alternative to all of that. We're the real change. We're the orange crush.
Well, I lied. It actually is one simple one. And is there anything you would like to say to our audience?
I would like to say that it's been an honor to meet Robert today and to continue to go across Canada and meet one of the most extraordinary, vibrant, productive communities. The Chinese community across Canada has brought so much to Canada over so many years, and it's a thrill for me to continue to get to meet powerful, extraordinary journalists like Robert and to get to know more people in the community.
Well, Mr. Mulcair, let me thank you for the information provided to our audience. It's my pleasure to interview you today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All the best.
Okay.